Most of us would have a crazy obsession with knowing what is happening on the other side of the realm. Our science has progressed, and our ambitions have reached another level. Yet, there are many things yet to be unveiled. This enlarges our fascination and makes us ponder on a lot of what-ifs. Here, we are going to unravel an often asked question. What if the sun blew up tomorrow? This might seem to be a childish query, but it requires great thought and analysis to understand what would happen if the sun blew up. But the most direct answer that anyone could give us is that it will be the end of life on Earth. Now, how does blowing up the sun have a disastrous effect on Earth? This is what we are going to understand through this video. In short, when the sun stops being there, it's going to start growing and using as much hydrogen at its center as possible before gradually turning into a dying star. In short, the sun will cease the internal thermonuclear reactions that enable stars to shine. But this process is not as simple as it is being said. It is therefore important to know about the sun, the largest star in our solar system. As we all know, the sun is a little less than 5 billion years old. This is the largest star present in our solar system, and it makes up for 99.8% of our solar system's mass. The sun, after burning through most of the hydrogen in its core, will transition to its next phase as a red giant. According to NASA, the sun will cease to produce heat through nuclear fusion at this point in time, approximately 5 billion years from now, and its core will become unstable. But the outer part of the sun, which has some amount of hydrogen, will continue to expand, and sometimes the expansion can gobble up the neighboring planets. The scenario will be horrific and unimaginable. Even the solar winds have the capability to quash Earth's magnetic field and strip off its atmosphere. Before delving more into the issue of the sun blowing up, there is a necessity to understand how the sun works. Where does the energy come from? The working of any star depends on the understanding of nuclear reactions and fusion. The sun's energy is generated by a process of nuclear fusion, which occurs inside the core. Fusions are not complicated concepts. They're a merger of small nucleons with larger ones that release massive amounts of energy. The core temperature is entirely dependent upon the type of nuclear fusion reaction that takes place in a star. There's a phenomenon called proton-proton fusion that occurs in the sun, and this transformation produces an energy flow that keeps the sun warm. From the sun's core, this generated energy is radiating away and traveling through our solar system. Now, how will it affect planet Earth and its inhabitants? Let us assume a likely scenario in the event of the sun blowing up. For whatever life is left on the planet, it will be bad news at this point. As an example, a 10% increase of the sun's brightness was estimated to have vaporized Earth's seas between 1 billion and 1.5 billion years in 2014, according to research carried out in geophysical research letters. But it's just the beginning. The sun is probably going to eat Earth's rocky core in about 1 million years of this initial expansion. By now, the sun will be like a glowing shell of hot leftover plasma in its outer layers as it shrinks to an incredibly dense, significantly hotter, Earth-sized stellar corpse known as a white dwarf. The sun will then begin fusing the helium left over from hydrogen fusion into carbon and oxygen, and ultimately it collapses down to its core. It will take another trillion years to cool off before ultimately becoming a non-emitting object. That dim white dwarf will host a new habitable zone. Our sun isn't massive enough to trigger a stellar explosion, called a supernova, when it dies, and it will never become a black hole either. For those of you who don't know what supernova means, let me explain it in short. It must have a mass greater than at least 8 solar masses for the star to go supernova. Though there's a debate about the exact limits, the sun isn't so big that it doesn't quite reach them. It would be weird if it were to go supernova. It'd be crazy to defy the laws of physics in this way. But let's take a step back for a while and see if the sun would go supernova. To put it bluntly, the supernova is an intense starlight explosion. In layman's terms, human beings are most likely to face extinction due to climate change and global warming, which are irreversible. If the supernova explosion is violent, the ultraviolet rays are definitely going to reach the Earth's surface, and it takes almost 8 minutes and 20 seconds to reach Earth. The immediate consequence of this would be that the part of the Earth facing the sun would boil away instantly. The surface of the planet, which faces the sun, would be vaporized by an explosion. At that point, the opposite side would be 15 times as hot as the surface of the sun. In a couple of days, the whole planet's going to go down. Although some microorganisms living in the Earth's crust would survive, the majority of life would wither away. The processes that sustain life on Earth, starting from photosynthesis, would halt immediately. This would result in the death of plants within a few weeks. Large trees, however, could survive for several decades thanks to slow metabolism and substantial sugar stores. With the food chain's bottom tier, the producers being knocked out, most animals would die off quickly, but scavengers would remain until the cold killed them. The incessant warming and cooling of the atmosphere will make the planet inhabitable for people and other living things to survive. If anyone survives the initial strokes, sooner or later, the conditions become unfavorable for even the microorganisms to survive. But that's not it. The sun is not just providing heat, it also plays an important role in keeping the planet in orbit. In this phase of its evolution, the sun will lose a significant amount of mass, meaning Earth's orbit will also expand. This would affect the stability and balance that the Earth has while rotating and revolving. This destabilization is going to have a violent impact on Earth. However, current theories suggest the new orbit won't be large enough for the Earth to escape interaction with the lower atmosphere of the expanding sun. This means Earth will likely still be vaporized by the growing star. Some weird escape mechanisms voiced by many are either living in submarines or getting shelter in a nuclear or geothermal-powered habitat. But how long do you think it can protect you? Though the sun blowing up is inevitable owing to the way in which it uses hydrogen, be rest assured, it is not going to happen anytime soon. Scientists have concluded a lot of research and study. They have come to the conclusion that the sun is not going to explode for another 5 to 7 billion years. There is also an argument that since our sun is small compared to other stars in the galaxy, scientists believe it is highly unlikely that it will go out in a giant supernova. It is believed that the sun will die out at a slower and less sudden rate. Is there any hope for an alternative survival mechanism? Actually, there is. Recently, scientists have discovered the first ever planet orbiting a white dwarf. That is good news, right? This provides a glimpse of hope into the possible future of the solar system. This new planet is a gas giant about 40% bigger than Jupiter, orbited by the dead star, some 6,000 light years from Earth to the center of our galaxy, the Milky Way. We do not yet know the details of this and the prospects for further development, but there's a glimmer of hope in it. Understanding the sun and its understanding would take a few more years. While many countries are in the process of discovering more about our solar system, we still have a number of outstanding features to discover. For now, we are assured of the fact that this scorching destruction of Earth is a long way off. About 7.59 billion years in the future, according to some calculations. An international group of astronomers are still on the lookout to find the exact number of days the sun will be able to keep the fuel running. Meanwhile, let us take advantage of the beauty offered by space and try to avoid destroying planet Earth during our quest for dominance. Sustainability can make a big difference in the maintenance of what we've got for generations to come when countries are looking at opportunities to conquer space. For more fascinating and curious videos on science and the universe, subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon so that you will be informed when a related video comes up.